I love it when I have Hollywood insiders on the podcast because they give us a behind the scenes look at how the movie and TV sausage gets made. Michael Jackman is an Academy Award nominated producer whose films include The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, The Good Nurse, and Arrival, which also is nominated for Best Picture in 2017. His latest film, Conclave, is a Best Picture nominee. It's received 8 nominations in all and is a suspenseful thriller about the process of selecting a new pope. The film stars John Lithgow and Stanley Tucci, along with Ralph Fiennes and Isabella Rossellini, who have both received Oscar nominations for their acting work. Without further ado, Michael Jackman, welcome to Group Text.
Oh, thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be
It's so much fun when I can have a producer on. So I saw Conclave. I loved it. So for someone who hasn't seen it, give us the log line.
Okay. So when we start, the Pope has died. We are brought into the moment of Ray Fiennes, who plays the dean of the College of Cardinals, having to bring together all of the cardinals to select a new pope. They get sequestered, and he has to run this selection of the spiritual leader of 1 billion souls at a time in his life when he's having a crisis of faith of his own. And the Pope who has died has has put all sorts of things in motion that propel this thriller forward throughout the conclave.
So it's based on a 2016 book by Robert Harris. It's a novel. How did it get from book to you to actually getting made?
There is a very important intermediary in there. My fellow producer, Tessa Ross, who has a UK-based production company called House Productions, she read the first 3 chapters of Robert Harris's book in 2016 and chased it. So she has to get the credit for putting this together because she really did. Got Robert Harris to option her the book.
But again, let me just go back to this was in 2016.
2016, yes. Exactly. These things take a long time. Always. That's the other thing people don't realize. I mean, they just take forever. It's such a intense, long period of time when you're working on a film. But yeah, so she got Peter Straughan, amazing writer who had written Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which has some sort of similar structure and tension, and he wrote a brilliant screenplay. And then Ed Berger came along, who had just done Patrick Melrose. I got involved a little bit after that. The company I was with was called Film Nation Entertainment. I'd been there for about a dozen years. I'm not with them anymore, but they're wonderful people. They came aboard to finance. I was brought in to produce for Film Nation with Tessa and her partner, Juliet Howell. So I got to get aboard a moving train a little bit because we didn't have a budget yet, but we had key ingredients and I had to go live in Rome for 6 months. It was really hard. I know everyone feels sorry for me.
But in the middle of this, there was that little thing called COVID.
Yeah, that happened.
I mean, so this is, 10 years basically in the making.
Yeah, it really is. And which, isn't so bad.
No, for a movie, that's kind of in the middle.
Yeah, and actually we still had COVID protocols that we put in place when we started because Ray Fiennes is in every scene of the movie. And I'm like, okay, everyone's wearing them. I was like the COVID police on set. I'm like, I don't care if it's a flu, you have a cold, like you have COVID, like he's in everything. He can't get sick. So we had a little bit of mask wearing and things like that, but it was without incident. And also Ed Berger had just made All Quiet. So he was in the middle of his Oscar campaign for All Quiet while we were shooting the movie.
Okay, so that's a lot of moving pieces. So how long, once you started shooting, how long did it actually take to make the film?
Sure. So we shot for 42 days.
Oh, that's fast.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. So call it about 9 weeks. Our post-production editorial and screening process was probably 6-8 months. Then we actually started screening it for festivals and also distributors, and Focus came along, and we released end of last year. So let's see, I started on the movie I'm gonna say 20, mid 2023, mid 2022. I started on the film. So, but from the time we started, like a year and a half, 2 years till it was released.
Which is in our business crazy fast,
That was pretty fast.
which is
Yeah,
shocking. So,
yeah.
what made you? I mean, I understand, but what really drew you to the film? And you're looking at this amazing script. How do you even begin to cast it? Did you get your dream cast, or was there a process? Because my mom always used to say, which is true, everybody is everybody's second choice at some point. You know, it went
Sure.
to Julia Roberts, who turned it down, and then it went to Amy Adams.
Right.
Or, basically, other than Meryl Streep and probably De Niro, everybody is always everybody's second choice.
That's fair. We actually wound up with our first choice across the board, and it wasn't simple. I mean, once Rafe was on, the first choices were Stanley and John and Isabella, and all of them fell out and fell back in throughout pre-production. I mean, there was a moment I had a you take the characters' names and you put them on the wall with a blank face as you're casting. And so I had a wall full of, empties. And then, we had Rafe, obviously, and then we had, John and Stanley and Isabella, and then John fell out because she was doing a series and he was back, and then Stanley fell out and he was back, and then Isabella fell out and it looked like she was gone. And I didn't take the picture off the wall. I just sort of moved it halfway down because I was because you start thinking about who we're going to cast instead of Isabella Rossellini in this part. And it's like you think of all the actresses and you go, okay, well, this person would be great. They have the strength and that authority, but there's that internal kindness. Is that going to come across? And then someone else who's got that kindness, and it's like, are they going to be as strong as Isabella could? And then she also fell back in, and it was like perfect. We were so excited. So we really did get our dream team, including Sergio Castellito, who plays Cardinal Tedesco. He's a Italian movie star. I mean,
Right.
he's in everything, and he was doing a one-man Macbeth throughout Europe, and he kept adding dates. And we're like, we can't stop adding dates. Like,
Stop
we
it.
can't do it. But we got him, and he was amazing. He, by the way, I didn't know how big a movie star he was until we shot all of the dining room scenes at this military base. And the dining room was up on the hill, and our base camp, where all of our trailers were for the actors, was at the bottom of this hill. Not a long walk if we could walk through this parking lot that the military decided off limits. There's sensitive stuff. I don't know. We could see it, but they're sensitive. We couldn't go. They had like 9 soldiers lined up to make us walk around, up a hill, down a hill. So it took a long time. I'm walking with Sergio between scenes. He's got a break. I'm walking him down to his trailer. We get to the spot with these 9 soldiers, and I go, "No, Sergio, we have to go around." He goes, "No, no, that's okay." And he walks up to them, and they part like the Red Sea. And just, we walk down. He's like, "I played a general once." They still think I'm a general.
That's hilarious. But at one point in the process, and I've gone through it recently with producing a special, and you're looking at that board and everything's moving, and at one point you just go face down on your desk. You're like, I I mean, there was one day where I literally just stopped speaking because I couldn't. What was that moment for you where you're just like, I mean, I literally stopped speaking to the point that my son, who is outside, who's an adult, texted my fiance because he was there. Steve Cooper was there for dinner, and he texted him, "Is she okay? Is it just let me know if there's anything I can do?" Because I literally just like I just stopped.
Yeah, yeah, that happens. The moment for me, so we had to build the Sistine Chapel.
Oh, easy task.
Yeah,
Because
that
wait,
was
so
the hard part.
now okay, here's just to backtrack. They obviously did not let you shoot in there. Did they allow your set designers and production designers in to really be able to get the measurements and the perspective?
So we never contacted the Vatican about the movie at all. We just decided we didn't want to have anyone say no to anything. So we just didn't. We had some help because there have been other films that have taken place in the Sistine Chapel, and imagery had been taken, high definition photographs had been done, and measurements. So we were able to get that information. because I mean, there's two popes, there's young popes, young popes. So there was a lot of stuff. So that was very helpful. The confusing part was, or that face down moment was, I don't know, it was a 14-week build to build the Sistine Chapel, and we built 35 feet on the side and like 45 feet front and back, and the front had the final judgment. So you can, and it was a full size room. So you can go in there and you'd feel sort of the weight of that room, and you'd see this fresco. And then the roof was going to be, CG imagery stitched together, which is what it was. We've been in construction for, I don't know, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, and we were probably a month out from shooting when when the people we're dealing with for our Italian rights were like, okay, so we don't have the rights for any of the images. We're like, what? We're like, yeah, all the Michelangelo, yeah, we don't have the rights. We're like, what? Who does? Like the Vatican, but they don't really grant the rights. So we're going for about 3 or 4 hours. I'm thinking, what do we shut down? I mean, we have to make the movie. Do we just do it? And like, does the Pope sue us? I mean, what happens next?
Well, especially because it's been in a ton of movies.
Been in a ton of movies, and it's older. It's old enough that it should be public domain. But the Vatican is their own state. They make their own rules. They're their own country, essentially. So they could do anything they want. So they tend to, if they license at all, they license for 5 years, which is impossible for a movie.
Right.
And then we talked to one of the lawyers that we've been dealing with, and they're like, oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. There's this archive in Florence called the Archivio Scala, and they have all of Michelangelo's original drawings for the Sistine Chapel, and they'll license it to you. I'm like, are they allowed to? It's like, yeah, they do it for everyone, and the Vatican has never sued anybody. We're like, okay, that's what we'll do.
Look at all these things that you've learned. So I want to double back to the cast for a sec.
Yeah.
So you have these amazing actors. Not all of them could possibly have the same method. I'm sure some are method, some are more know your lines, hit your marks. Some are more just live in the moment, and then they call for lunch and they're like, I'll have the pizza. You know what I mean? How did you balance all these different styles? Because these are all very intense actors. And they're all in scenes together.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to talk anything about the movie ultimately without talking about Edward Berger, because he's a brilliant director. And when I think about this, like nobody could have made this movie the way he did. I think it's very singular, his vision, and you don't always get to make the best version of the movie you set out to make. And Ed was wonderful at dealing with the differences of the actors. He trusted them and he gave them their space. But he also was very, very clear about what he wanted out of a scene, or if he had anything he wanted to do different. In terms of the actors, Rafe is very intense. He has his moments. He comes on set. By the time he's on set, he's not method per se, but he's clearly in the headspace of the character he's in, and he's pretty intense. Stanley Tucci, he just hangs out. He's very, very easy to be around. And what's really funny about Stanley, so when we watch Rafe performing on the monitor, it's like, wow, that was intense. When you watch Stanley, you're like, it's just Stanley being Stanley. And then you watch it in context and you're like, oh, look at all the things he did. Like, you don't even realize how much he brought to that moment, because it just seems like he's being himself. But in fact, his expressions, his looks away, his little micro movements of his face, they bring a ton. You don't even realize it. It's just totally like, and Rafe, I wouldn't want to go, hey, Rafe, how you doing today? Because I'm worried that he's in a moment. But Stanley, you can talk to him about anything. And then Jonathan Lithgow and Isabella were sort of in between. They a little more sort of in the moment of their characters, but also very, very easy and on set. I mean, it was really fun, and
Yeah, fun for you to watch, not so fun for the director.
No, I think Ed really enjoyed the actors because they all give a lot. They all really give you a ton to work with. Also, Rafe was incredibly generous as an actor. So Carlos Dietz, who plays Benitez, was a new actor. I mean, I'm coming amongst this group we wanted someone, especially that no one knew anything about. We didn't want the actors to know who he was. We didn't want the world to know who this person was because of the character and because of, we didn't want any expectations to go with this character. But he walks in to this group of just powerhouse actors. And his first scene is a long scene with Rafe. And Rafe was so kind and just kept giving him line reading, like giving him different readings to work against and helping him, and just enormous patience to just let him get his nerves settled and make him feel comfortable.
That's lovely because we all know actors who would not do that.
Oh, no, he was so wonderful.
So not only were the actors nominated and the film nominated, the screenwriter, the costume designer, and the production designer. And so much of this film, part of the drama of the film, is the visuals.
Mhm.
How long did their research take? I mean, you guys got the book in 2016. At what point did that group start? Again, that's people don't understand
Yeah,
that the actors are kind of the last things dropped in.
right, right. No, really good question. So Lizzie Crystal had done All Quiet on the Western Front with Edward. So, and also Lizzie was doing research on a book of like clerical vestments. This is totally separate from Conclave, and over the centuries. So she was kind of a natural for Edward to bring in, as was Volker Bertelmann, our composer. Volker also had done All Quiet, brilliant composer. So those were people that Ed had worked with before, and he had a comfort level, and also were sort of perfect for this. Um, Susie Davies was our production designer. She had done a ton of research. And then also what we did was, since we didn't shoot anything at the Vatican,
Right.
we wanted to make it feel like we were in Vatican City. And you can see, certain, like we have the St. Peter's Basilica is everywhere when you look around Rome. And so we use that also in our background to connect all of our dots. But we had to find really interesting interiors that felt like as beautiful and as weighty as St. Peter's, and found stunning locations kind of all around Rome. But then some of the things were not sort of overly, in the Vatican, like the dining room, they're not overly exciting. So we would augment. But one of the things that was really interesting that Susie did, so we built the Sistine Chapel, and when it was laid out on the floor, we shot at the Cinecittà Studios in Rome. It was laid out on the floor, and I looked at it. I'm going right in the middle of this giant studio, and I'm looking, going, we've had such a hard time finding our hallways and our papal suites. I went to the construction corner. I'm like, how far to the corner could you push this, just in case we need a little more room? And he's like, I could push it pretty far. I'm like, do it. So we
Yeah.
pushed it all the way into the corner, and we wound up with enough room to build a corridor all along the side of the Sistine. Is that green and gray marble corridor that we're walking back and forth, because it needed to be, Edward wanted it long enough to, and he wanted it a certain width, but not too wide. He wanted a claustrophobic feeling. And then the papal suites were four kind of modular rooms that Susie designed to move around however we wanted, so you could have a different layout for the different people. So every time I walked onto the set on a different day, I would turn a corner and walk into a wall that wasn't there the previous day, because they had moved it around, changed it, and now this was a bathroom, that was a doorway. I mean, just brilliant. And then all of the gorgeous design she did on the other sets.
Was there any, and I don't mean this in a negative way, CGI enhancement of anything? Because nowadays that is not a bad thing. It helps bring certain depth and to scenes, and to be able to, again, make something feel larger, claustrophobic. Did you have any of that?
There was no enhancements for anything other. The only thing we did, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel was visual effect. So, we built the front, back, and side, so we have that space, and then to do that fresco on the top, that would have been a visual effect, but a traditional visual effect, whatever that means. It's not sort of no AI generated stuff, but computer generated imagery. We took all of those images of that roof and, knit those together to create that look. But no, I mean, we were in Rome, so we got to use the natural, gorgeous surroundings of everything. And you also get this funny sense, in Rome, it's not like wandering around in New York where, in Rome you're wandering around and there are monks walking around in monk habits, and there's like five guys, in cardinal robes sitting at the coffee shop smoking a cigarette and having a coffee. It's such an interesting environment. It starts to feel much more natural than we think of it, and nuns everywhere on the phones. And so that was really kind of helped kind of set the stage, because it wasn't just when we were shooting it, like our guys could walk around in costume and no one would give them a second look.
Right. What I loved, and I was about to ask you about that, is you give us a snapshot of them all being real. They're walking into their housing and you got one smoking, they have roller bags, someone scrolling on their phone. And that was like, that for me was like, oh man, now they're real people.
Very much so.
And I thought that was such an interesting choice to not keep it so precious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you think about like the environment, also even what's happening. So conclave is cardinals from all over the world come together and are sequestered and live together to pick one of their own as the next pope, which is obviously a big deal. And it's a power struggle. And it's where all of our sort of interesting, the thriller dynamic comes from. But like we ask questions like, what do they wear when they're not in the Sistine Chapel? What does he wear when he's in his little apartment? What, like, would he grab his little zucchetto hat off his head and squish it if he's upset? What does he do with the cross? Is he allowed, like, are there things we had religious advisors to say, what would they do in this situation? Because and a lot of times it's like, what would you do in that situation? They're just people.
And that's, as I say, so the religious advisor, you would think that, again, what they do in their rooms, you don't know. For all you know, they're looking at Instagram. You know what I mean? They're shopping off Instagram or learning TikTok dances.
Yeah, well, it's very funny. I think there was a line, it didn't wind up in the movie, where I think it was Cardinal Tremblay, mentions like, the Pope having died is trending. Um, because, and there were a lot of things that we still brought in the outside world that one sort of ultimately didn't fit the moment, but, it's definitely meant to go, these are real people living in the real world, just like all of us. But and like all of us, there are good people and bad people, and there are liberals and conservatives, and there are people whose motivations are pure and motivations are not, and there are people who are indifferent, and there are people who are good speakers and bad speakers and all that. And it's just sort of just like any other situation, power struggle, they're human beings. And I think honestly, one of my favorite lines from the movie is we serve an ideal, we cannot always be ideal. Which is a lovely, way to think about people who are in this job calling of being spiritual leaders.
Well, for me, what I really noticed and thought about was you realize that it's a business. These are the board members, and they're electing a CEO. There's very much a disconnect of chosen by God. It's a board vote.
Yeah. No, it really is. And yeah, and this is their job. And yeah, and I think some of them feel chosen, and I think some of them don't.
I want to talk about the Oscar process now, because you're not a rookie going through the Oscar season. Because you were there with Arrival.
But I'm a rookie being nominated. I've never been a nominated producer or nominated anything. So
Really?
in
I
that
thought
way,
you
I'm
weren't
totally-
nominated at all with Arrival.
No, Arrival was nominated, but I was a co-producer on Arrival, so I wasn't nominated on that. And
Okay,
worked on a lot.
now we're talking technicalities. Who gets
Yes.
who? Do you
But
get the thing with your name on it? Does the studio get
right.
to buy it for you? People don't get
But did I
that.
get an invite? So this is the first invite I got officially from the Academy.
Oh,
I'm
did
not
you?
an Academy member.
Oh, and did you get to go to the luncheon?
The luncheon is now a dinner, and yes.
And how? Okay, who are you excited to meet?
Oh my God. Well, we've been doing this, like there was an AFI luncheon and the Golden Globes and the Critics'
And for
Choices.
people who don't know, there are the famous Oscar luncheon, or now dinner, is nominees only, like not even plus ones, like nominees only. You're supposed to be in the room with only your peers.
Yeah. So
Was there a
this
gift
is, it's
bag?
going to be Monday or Tuesday before the Oscars is what we're doing. I mean, Jodie Foster, I met her and I can't wait to like talk to her again. Harrison Ford, I actually met. I don't know if he'll be at the nominees luncheon because he's not nominated this year, but like this was the AFI luncheon where I met people. Like I've gotten to, interestingly enough, I mean, we both went to Penn,
Oh,
you know.
really? Aren't we
Um,
proud, Liz McGill?
yes. I was 85, college 85.
So you
Missed you by a year.
graduated the year before I started.
Yep. Yep. My wife was 88, so she was right there with you. But Fred Berger, nominated for A Complete Unknown, also Penn.
We're
And
everywhere.
Mark Platt, nominated for Wicked, also Penn. All three of us this year nominated for Best Picture, which is kind of fun.
I'm feeling very less than, but that's a separate
Sorry,
That's a
it was not my
conversation.
intention.
That's a
Um,
conversation for my therapist. Okay, so
but I'm so excited to meet. I mean, to be in that room of brilliant filmmakers and that suddenly feel like your peers, that's a wonderful feeling for me because, we can all feel like I can certainly feel like an imposter a lot. I mean, it happens and a lot.
a lot.
That's a moment that feels like, okay, at this moment, I'm not an imposter because we're all kind of together in this room. So that's kind of the exciting feeling that, I'm looking forward to.
Okay, I'm going to turn into me rather than someone smart right now. Gift bags.
Haven't seen one.
Really?
You know, I'm a producer. Like if they gave me something and I wear it no one cares. If the actors do, they're all over it. And I get that. But no, nothing yet. I'm hoping something.
You're going to get something. I mean, at the luncheon, they have to be handing out, like, a t shirt.
T-shirt would be nice. I'll take a t-shirt. Oscar nominee. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Like, I can't believe you've got nothing. I would think you would be getting everything.
I've
Best
gotten
thing,
lovely notes from a lot of people.
best thing I ever got in a gift bag was when we were doing the red carpet. I want to say it was for the ESPYs. They gave us a stack of do you remember Jamba Juice, which was like
Yeah,
Robex? We got a stack of free juice cards.
I like
Best
that.
thing I ever got out of a gift bag.
I love that.
Isn't that a good
I
one?
love
There's
that.
like, I'm like,
I want I want
I got a year's worth of Jamba Juice.
that is perfect. Our Lizzie Crystal, our costume designer, her pharmacist gave her 10% off for life. Like, that's okay.
You know what? The Xanax can get expensive.
Yeah.
So they can get very expensive. What I also find interesting and fun is how close the cameras get when they're reading someone's category. And at least someone at one point mouthed the words, "Oh, fuck." You have to acknowledge, and you've been watching these shows and part of Critics' Choice and all these different shows. I mean, I know they're actors, but still, how does no one just, I mean, I've heard about people crying in the bathroom, stuff like that. But how do people keep their composure other than being absolutely, medicated?
I I think so. The way I think about it is I do not expect to win, right? It's like lightning striking twice. The nomination is lightning striking. Like lightning would have to strike twice. But I will be disappointed to lose. But I don't expect it. So for me, that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying the prospect. I think prospect is super exciting, but it's the top of the top. And how often does that happen? So I think you kind of do that. I mean, you like you don't. I'm not ready to. No one should be ready to run up as soon as they hear the voice because the winner because who knows? And I think you just expect that it's not going to happen. Doesn't stop the disappointment and it doesn't stop the excitement. And then if you do get the award, then I think
And
then your
all
head
then your head explodes, exactly. All the award shows have a different vibe. Like it's a very party atmosphere and table hopping at the Globes and at the Critics' Choice, everyone's sort of pretending to be a little bit smarter. And I've always heard that at the Oscars, basically everyone's at the bar, like pacing
expects.
and at the bar.
I hope so because otherwise you're sitting in an auditorium, right? You're just sitting watching.
Exactly. Watching other people be anxious. So I'm dying. You're gonna have to report back to me on that
Well,
one.
So,
Okay, now moving forward about you, some things that I found interesting. Produce a lot of stand-up specials. Little bit different than Conclave, and your next movie is called I Love Boosters, which from the title, I'm guessing, again, not the same dramatic weight as Conclave. How did you pivot from,
I'll tell you.
spending time researching the Yuck Yuck Club to researching the Vatican?
Yeah. So we were in a SAG strike and a WGA strike, and we couldn't do anything else. And comedians are neither SAG nor WGA. So I just didn't want to sit around doing nothing anymore. So we raised a bunch of independent money and we made 12 specials. A friend of mine owns a club, and we did um, 3 nights of 2 specials over 2 weekends and just shot them all and just gave ourselves something to do because why sit around when you can go do something else?
Have
So
any of them,
that
have any of the comedians super popped from it?
um, there's a couple that look like they could, and but like it's a weird process because we just make them independently, so there was no outlet. So then we got to like, try to get them on, on the Netflixes and the the AVODs and the PVODs and all the VODs, the video
Right.
on demand things. Um, but it's working their way. It looks like they're doing all right. And then I Love Boosters is it's Boots Riley. Boots did Sorry to Bother You, and he was a rap hip hop artist in the Coop and did an Amazon series called I'm a Virgo. And it could not be more different. Other than that, I love it, and I think it's wonderful, going to be a wonderful film. It is. I mean, Conclave had 3 colors, and I Love Boosters has every color that you could possibly imagine. The cast is Kiki Palmer and Demi Moore and Naomi Aki and Taylor Page and Don Cheadle. I mean, just it's an amazing cast. Um, and Boots is so interesting and funny. I mean, it's just completely different. I mean, it literally could not look or have been more different an experience. Other than that, it was great to work on. Um, I I am driven by finding people I want to work with more than the material itself. I like to say projects I like with people I love.
Have have you been flooded with scripts since the nomination or since Conclave came out?
Much more than I had. And people call me back quicker. That's really nice. Uh, you know,
I love you're such a realist like me. It's like, yeah, this week they're calling me.
yeah, yeah. And people are like, so what happens after the Academy Awards? I'm like, after the Academy Awards, I go back to being an unemployed producer, looking for, people to do projects with. But it's really, I am focused on that. I want the material. I need to like it, but to me, that will be an organic thing that happens from the people that I find to work with. Because we spend so much time doing this and working, long days and years on projects that I just want to work with people that I enjoy spending that amount of time with. And, whether you work with people, the sad reality is making a movie could be a wonderful experience or a horrible experience. The people you work with could be the best or the worst. Doesn't dictate whether the movie's good or not.
Yeah.
You don't know. That's this weird alchemy of this years long collaboration and, chemistry and whatever. So if that's not the decider, I'm just going to work with people I like.
Bless you. Like
Well,
Godspeed.
I hope I can I hope I can maintain that
That
fortitude
optimism.
of
Now,
choice. Yeah,
do you already have your tuxedo?
I sort of do. I want some red highlight. I think conclavial red highlight.
Don't do that to me. Don't make me look and have to go, oh, what the fuck is he doing?
Maybe a
Don't.
little, maybe just a little
A
something.
red pocket square I can
Maybe.
live
What do you
with.
think? Is that
Do not
acceptable?
give me a red tie.
No, no. I did a red bow tie once,
No,
but
no,
no.
no, 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 no. We are not in high school.
Okay, pocket square, okay?
Red pocket square I can live with.
Cufflinks.
Red cufflinks I can live with.
Okay, all right.
But
I need to know because I this is
well,
not something.
but now that we've done this before, because I'm going to be sitting, looking, and don't make me have to email you going, you have let me down. Don't make
I
me,
am
do
so
not make me
appreciative.
have to do that.
I am so appreciative of this moment because I have clarity now and I
Yes.
didn't. and I can relax.
You can do a red pocket square. I give you permission. You can do
Okay.
red cufflinks.
Okay.
If you choose to go with a traditional tuxedo shirt, you could even do ruby studs.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
But that gets uncomfortable during the night. I think perhaps a wee pair of ruby cufflinks could work.
Huh? Okay.
That's
All right.
what I'm gonna, I'm gonna be looking.
Thank you.
Michael Jackman, thank you so much. I loved the movie. If people have not seen it, you must run and see it. And what I love the most about talking about your career is I feel like it's Faye Dunaway from Chinatown. I'm your mother. I'm your sister. I'm your mother. Like, I'm doing stand up and I'm doing Conclave. And I love talking to people who do that. So thank you so much.
Such a pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on.